Humanity's galactic adventures were being watched with awe by many alien civilizations. Their resilience, adaptability, and refusal to give up even in the most desperate moments had become legendary. But this time, even the leaders of the Galactic Alliance had written off the humans. A group of volunteers was sent to the planet Fonga, a deadly place where other species stood no chance of survival. Here, these humans were about to write their own fate. Fonga's surface was a death trap in itself. Massive, winged predators, venomous and enormous insects, and creatures capable of shattering rocks with their jaws roamed the entire planet. The humans were about to embark on a survival mission amidst these creatures. As the colony ship descended through the atmosphere, engulfed in smoke and flames, Captain Arlen lifted his head and scanned his crew. "This landing's going to be rough. Check your harnesses," Arlen warned. His face was tense, but there was an unusual determination in his eyes. Next to him, Miriam was running environmental scans, her brow furrowed. "The planet's surface is incredibly unstable. Predator signatures are everywhere. Many of these creatures have never been recorded before," she said, her voice adding to the tension between them. Darnell leaned back in his seat and let out a nervous laugh. "So, welcome to another death trap, folks." When the colony ship hit the ground hard, everyone inside was thrown forward by the impact. Arlen quickly got out of his seat, opened his laptop, and checked the emergency landing status. Outside, another life was stirring. Massive shadows began to pass by the ship's windows. Predator birds soared in the backdrop of a setting sun. Arlen quickly stood up. "Everyone arm yourselves. We need to survive the first night. We're going to observe those giant birds," he commanded. As the ship's doors opened heavily, the oppressive atmosphere of the wild planet flooded the cabin. It was hot and humid, as if the planet itself was trying to suffocate them. The first reconnaissance team cautiously stepped outside with their weapons ready. The screams coming from the surrounding forest indicated how close the creatures were. Giant winged beasts flew above. Each flap of their wings cast the humans below into shadow. Miriam, scanning the sky with her data device, said, "These creatures have wingspans of nearly 30 meters. They're moving as a flock. They're going to hunt us." Darnell aimed his rifle at the birds and winked. "Let's see who gets hunted first." Suddenly, one of the birds dove from the sky, its massive talons capable of lifting boulders the size of trucks. "Take positions," Arlen shouted, as everyone aimed their weapons at the approaching bird. The bird dove rapidly toward the ship. Arlen braced his laser rifle on his shoulder, controlled his breathing, and fired directly at the bird's chest. The laser pierced through its thick feathers, hitting beneath its wings, but the creature kept advancing without slowing down. "We need to hit harder," Kira yelled, and the gunfire intensified. The sound of flapping wings merged with explosions in the air. Arlen was issuing commands while scanning the surroundings. The birds weren't just attacking. They were moving in a coordinated fashion. They carried a strange intelligence. Suddenly, another bird circled from the right and dove toward Miriam. "Move right," Kira shouted, but the bird's speed was terrifying. Miriam aimed her laser weapon but was swatted to the ground by the creature's talons. The power of the strike carved deep lines in the soil. Arlen acted instantly. He ran to Miriam's side and fired a few rounds to distract the bird. "It's not working. They're too fast." Miriam groaned, writhing in pain. Arlen studied the creature's movements. Attacking wasn't the only solution. They needed to understand them. He noticed the birds pulling back after each strike, observing them before attacking again. "Hold fire," Arlen shouted. "We're provoking them by attacking." The team looked at Arlen in confusion. At that moment, Another bird approached but didn't attack. It swooped down and then ascended again. Arlen was trying to decipher this behavior. I think they're just observing us. Maybe they don't attack unless we threaten them. Keep your weapons ready, Arlen commanded. Everyone held their positions. But instead of attacking, the birds started circling above them. Then Miriam realized, Arlen, they're just watching us. Arlen hesitated for a moment. Maybe they don't see us as a threat, he said. Suddenly, an idea formed in his mind. Throughout history, humans had survived by adapting to nature. Perhaps they could do the same here. Over the next few days, the team studied the behavior of the planet's dangerous creatures. Venomous insects, massive birds, and other predators only attacked when necessary. As Arlen and his crew began to understand these creatures' reactions, they found ways to interact with them. One morning, a giant winged beast began approaching the base. It's attacking, Kira shouted. But Arlen stopped her. No, wait. The creature landed near the base and calmly approached Arlen. Arlen slowly extended his hand. We mean you no harm, he said. The creature hesitated for a moment, then lowered its head. Arlen stroked its feathers. This moment marked a turning point for humanity's fate on Fonga. After that first contact, the humans learned how to communicate with the planet's animals. The predator birds started getting accustomed to the humans. Each one became a protector, patrolling the area around the base and shielding them from other dangers. Darnell remarked, "These birds are bonding with us in some way. We saw them as enemies, but they were just defending themselves." Meanwhile, the Galactic Alliance was shocked when they received word that the humans had survived. The Alliance's surveillance units had expected the humans to be wiped out by the wild animals at any moment. But instead, the humans were cooperating with Fonga's fauna. It was an unbelievable scenario for the Alliance. Arlen and his crew started understanding the organization of life on Fonga more deeply. The birds weren't just wild predators. They had a social structure. The bond they formed with humans brought them closer together. Even the massive insects began approaching the humans more slowly. "We're taming this planet," Darnell said. "We're just learning its language." As Miriam glanced at her data device, she grimaced. "There's something. This massive signal is much bigger than the birds around us," she said. Arlen quickly came over to check the device. "What the hell is this? Energy signature. Is it a creature or something else?" Just then, the ground started to shake slightly. At first, it seemed like a small tremor, but it quickly intensified. The vibrations coming from beneath the surface were heading straight for the base. Everyone started looking around anxiously. "Get your weapons ready," Arlen shouted. Although the base appeared to be protected by large rocks and dense vegetation, the tremors made it clear that whatever was approaching had immense power. Cracks began to open in the ground, and then a colossal creature burst out from beneath the surface. Its body was covered in armor, making it one of the planet's most fearsome predators. Known as the armored Colossus, this creature had a massive, rock-hard body shielded by thick, impenetrable plates. Every step it took shook the earth, and its every move exuded danger. Miriam's voice trembled. "That thing is completely armored. Can we even stop it with our weapons?" Gritting his teeth, Arlen replied, "We're going to try," and he immediately set the team into defensive positions. The crew held their laser rifles, ready to fend off the first attack. The Colossus raised its massive claws and slammed them into the ground. The earth quaked as vegetation and rocks around the base shattered. "Fire!" Arlen yelled. Lasers shot out, striking the creature's hardened shell, but to no effect. The Colossus continued its advance, drawing ever closer to the humans. Its enormous jaws tore through the air, letting out a thunderous roar that promised destruction to everything in its path. Kira aimed her laser rifle at the creature's eyes, but the laser beam slid harmlessly across the armor. "It's not working. Its armor's too strong," she shouted. Panic was setting in. Darnell rushed forward with a new idea. "There's got to be a weak point in that shell. We just have to find it. If we don't, that thing will crush us." Arlen was watching the creature's movements closely. It would tense its body before every strike, lifting its claws and briefly exposing its vulnerable joints. "There's an opening just before it strikes," Arlen called out. "We need to hit it during that moment." In the next attack, the Colossus raised its massive claw, and in that brief moment when its joints were exposed, Arlen aimed his laser rifle and shouted, "Now!" He fired. The laser beam hit the creature's joint, and a small explosion sparked, causing the beast to roar in pain. It staggered back for a moment, but didn't stop. It was now angrier than ever. Kira, seeing the damage, yelled. It worked, but it wasn't strong enough. Arlen took a deep breath. "We have to hit it together. Everyone focus on the same spot. That's the only way we'll bring it down." The team quickly coordinated their attack. They waited for the creature's next strike. As the Colossus lifted its claws once more, they all aimed at the exposed joint and fired simultaneously. A powerful explosion erupted from the weak point, sending the creature reeling back again. This time, a deep crack appeared in the armor. The Colossus staggered and, with a final deafening cry, collapsed to the ground. Its massive body hit the earth with a thundering crash. As Arlen lowered his weapon and exhaled deeply, some of the crew dropped to the ground, exhausted and breathing heavily. They had defeated the enormous threat, but everyone was acutely aware of just how close they'd come to being crushed. With the fall of the Colossus, the relationship between humans and Fongus wildlife began to evolve rapidly. The humans had moved beyond just defending themselves and were starting to understand and coexist with the planet's creatures. The giant birds that once circled threateningly above the base were now standing guard. Each morning and evening, their massive shadows passed overhead, protecting the humans. After studying the situation, Darnell came up with a theory. "These creatures are smarter than we thought. Maybe instead of fighting, we can find a way to communicate with them." Miriam nodded in agreement. "We're already starting to tame them. There's still so much more to learn about the natural structure of this planet." Life on Fonga was slowly starting to find balance. Each day, the humans were becoming more and more integrated into the planet's wild ecosystem. But far away, the Galactic Alliance was observing this development, and their surveillance indicated that an even greater threat was looming on the horizon. After the defeat of the Colossus, humans began to establish a harmonious life with Fonga's dangerous creatures. Now, the giant birds were defending their base, patrolling at night. The animals were being fed by humans, and in return, they protected them. The Galactic Alliance, watching from afar, was stunned by this development. The human success in taming this deadly planet led to heated discussions among the Alliance members. However, their triumph also triggered a far more dangerous enemy, who sought to take control of the planet for themselves. Early in the morning, Miriam rushed towards the base, focused on her data device. "Arlen, I've got bad news," she said, breathless. Arlen looked up from the ground. "What is it? Another creature?" Miriam shook her head. "No, this time it's something else. We've detected signals coming from space. They're not from the Galactic Alliance. It's an attack fleet. They're headed straight for us." Arlen's face hardened. "Who are they?" Miriam looked at the screen. "Pirates. They're coming for the planet's rich resources. They'll threaten our base and the creatures we've tamed." Arlen thought for a moment, then raised his head with resolve. This planet is our home now. We have to protect it. Within minutes, the entire base was on high alert. The humans, working with the birds, began to prepare defensive strategies. Teams quickly moved into combat positions. Arlen had already formed a bond with the creatures before the attacks started. The giant birds were now moving as if they were part of the base. Human sentries patrolled with the birds, preparing for the incoming assault. As the sky began to darken, the pirate fleet entered the atmosphere. Massive warships cast shadows over the planet. The atmosphere grew even more menacing as the flagship began a heavy bombardment, destroying vegetation and defense lines around the base. Arlen spoke into his microphone. Everyone stay in defensive positions. We'll launch a coordinated attack with the birds. The base's defense systems came to life. Laser cannons fired at the pirate ships, while the massive birds soared into the sky, heading straight for the enemy fleet. The flapping of their wings covered the night sky as they continued forward, undeterred by the pirates' firepower. The pirates' smaller warships flew low, attempting to approach the base. However, the birds, now deeply connected with the humans, launched an attack. One bird landed on a ship with its massive talons, lifting it into the air. As the pirates inside scrambled to escape, the bird flung the ship and smashed it to the ground. Darnell watched this scene while firing his laser rifle. "No one's ever seen anything like this," he shouted. Another bird destroyed the pirates' armored vehicles, as the sounds of flapping wings and laser fire echoed across the sky. The leader of the pirate fleet was watching the situation, visibly frustrated. "How can a planet this primitive have such a strong defense?" he growled. They had planned to easily wipe out the humans with their advanced technology, but they hadn't anticipated the creatures working in such harmony with the humans. "Wipe out the base," he ordered. The largest ship in the fleet began an intense bombardment. The lasers rained down from the sky, tearing through the ground. The humans retreated to their bunkers, and even the creatures were forced to pull back in the face of the relentless attack. Arlen realized the situation. They're preparing for a heavier assault. They're trying to pin us down. His expression was resolute. "We need to launch a counterattack. We have to take out the flagship, or we're all dead." The base was barely holding up against the pirates' bombardment. But Arlen and his team, with the help of the creatures, devised a plan. The birds were directed toward the flagship. They had transformed into warriors in the sky. The goal was to attack the ship's weak point, the energy reactor. As Arlen prepared the laser cannons, the birds began to dive from above. One bird landed on the ship's hull, using its wings to tear deep cracks into the massive steel structure. Other birds attacked in a similar fashion. The ship was defenseless against the assault of these enormous creatures. Arlen aimed at the exposed weak spot on the ship and shouted, "Fire now!" A powerful beam shot from the laser cannon, hitting the crack the birds had created. The blast rocked the ship, turning it into a fireball in the sky. The explosion from the ship lit up the night sky. As the pirates' flagship broke apart in the air, the rest of the fleet began to retreat. With the ships pulling back, the battle was over. When the fight ended, the bond between humans and the creatures had grown even stronger. Fonga was no longer just a survival challenge. It had become a place where harmony could be achieved. Humans had overcome the planet's dangers and tamed it. The Galactic Alliance watched this victory in disbelief. No other galactic race had ever managed to tame a planet like this. As Arlen returned to the base, he looked at his team. "We didn't just survive. We made this planet a part of us." The pirate threat had been eliminated, but a new era was beginning on Fonga. The bond forged between the humans and the planet's creatures was sending a message to civilizations across the galaxy. Humanity didn't fight against nature, it fought alongside it. And that made them unstoppable. I hope you had a good time. If you liked my story, do not forget to comment and subscribe to my channel. Goodbye. See you in the next story.